Okay, the Leafs Convo back at it for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. It is Sunday, October 22nd, 2023. NJ in London, Ontario. Mike in Buffalo. The Maple Leafs coming off a 4-3 overtime win, thrilling one, over the rival Tampa Bay Lightning. When these two teams get together, there's always some fireworks, not necessarily with the fisticuffs, but just madness typically ensues, Mike. Dating back a week, the Leafs were 2-0, barely. Today's show could have been all about a team that's 2 wins, 3 losses on the season, but they scrape one out against the Lightning. And in the process, we see that Ilya Samsonov is not necessarily ready for games that he's goaltending. And Matthew Nyes and Max Domi are both finally officially taking part in the 2023-2024 NHL season. Good morning.
Good morning, Norm. And first I have to say, so with winter oncoming here, I'm going to have to, when I go over the border, get a toque like that.
Right.
Because, I don't have as much insulation up top. So I'm going to need some.
I'm getting there too.
This was not a good week up until 6 minutes left to go in the third period when 8 minutes left to go in the third period, whenever Nyes scored to make it 3-2. But a wanting performance against Chicago, in which they sort of left Joseph Woll hung out to dry on two 2-on-1 breakaway goals. I mean, just not good. I mean, there was effort there, but just not in the right places. And Florida, 2 bad goals by Samsonov from long range, and they could never catch up against the Panthers. And it was the Nikita Kucherov show in the first period against Tampa. Right. They, you don't know that that's going to happen. This is one of the best players in the league. You should be keying on him. But Samsonov, 3 goals on 4 shots, and Sheldon Keefe after the game said, you let in 3 goals on 4 shots, I'm going to pull you, basically. It's
right.
I think the things that you can draw from this game, besides the obvious, the comeback and Nyes scoring 2 goals. I mean, Joseph Woll, for a lot of people, I know Elliot Friedman's been saying this since last year, that he thinks that Woll could be their number 1 by the middle of the season. He could be their number 1 by November. I mean, the way Samsonov has played. He gave up 5 goals against Montreal. He gave up 4 goals against Minnesota. He was not good against Florida, even though after the 2 goals, he sort of stiffened up. And then 3 goals on 4 shots against Tampa Bay. I mean, this is a guy that you're expecting to maybe not carry the ball and play 60 games, but he's the one who's with the experience that you're expecting to be the number 1. And he hasn't played like a number 1 so far. And it's only 2 weeks into the season, but they need this guy to play better than he has. And this is a contract year. He's a UFA at the end of the year. Woll came in and slammed the door on Tampa. He kept it at 3-1 and allowed the Leafs to come back in that game and win it. And that's invaluable. And so far, I think that they should give Joseph Woll a little more rope.
This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. Thanks so much to our sponsor, Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. Plenty of F-150 on the ground, but not as many as you might think. If you're looking for something high-end, like a Lariat with a big engine and all the frills, we are running out pretty quick. The good thing is there's tons of money off from the manufacturer. From us, there's cash bonuses, lease bonuses, finance bonuses. Reach out to me at Norman Oak Ridge Ford on Instagram. OG's Converts, man, you love me so much. I want to see some more support on the Instagram end of things. And of course, Mike Augello at hockeybuzz.com. Writing up a storm. I know you do some work for the beloved Buffalo Sabres too, Mike, but you got to pay some bills. But primarily, you are talking day in and day out about these Maple brothers. Comments in the chat, guys. We really appreciate it. There's a couple that I'm seeing that I want to get to, but we'll probably cycle through them quicker than I can read them. So keep commenting, guys, and we'll jump into it. I don't want to spend too much time on Ilya Samsonov because he's just one of 2 goaltenders, and if he's hot, have him in. If he's not, then leave him on the bench. But what the hell do you think's going on with this guy? And these are human beings. It's not for lack of trying, but trying to build some momentum from last year. He's in a contract year. He's got a Joseph Woll nipping at his heels. It's not that he's not trying. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it could just be early season jitters. It could be the fact that, I mean, remember last year, he was not qualified by Washington, and the Leafs got him for a relative song in terms of a salary. I think it was 1.8.
Right.
Now he's making a little under 3.5 million.
Right.
And he's got a chance with a good year to hit it big in terms of free agency. I mean, they're not
off to a good start.
Yeah, there are not a lot of goaltenders out there
right.
In free agency, so he's got a chance to make some money. And I mean, right now, maybe a little bit of feeling the pressure. I would think I can't put it all on him. The team defensively has not played well in front of him, but he needs to make the big
right.
save at the big time, and hasn't been doing that. But Joseph Woll played in front, played in back of the same defense, and he was excellent. And he made some big saves. I mean,
right.
the saves that he made on Kucherov with about 10 seconds left to go in regulation saved a point. And it was saved 2 points because they eventually got the win on the Tavares goal. But you need goaltenders to make it. You do not expect them to be Carey Price,
right.
or Bryden, or Terry Sawchuk every night. But you need them to make the big save at the big time. And so far, it's only a few games, but Samsonov has not made the big save at the big time. And Woll in this game last night did.
But that's why I like a tandem. When one guy's hot, the other's not, and that's okay. Joseph Woll won't be, well, it's possible he could be, but we doubt that he is going to be, a Vezina trophy type player from last night all the way through game 82 and beyond. So Ilya Samsonov has to be there too. Again, one guy trying to prove his worth and make some money, another guy just wants to be considered among the bona fide starters in the NHL, and that's a good that's a kind of a good dynamic to have, Mike. Dave Clark with something interesting in the chat. Good morning, Dave. Keith specializes in guilt shaming any player that won't play defensively, or am I wrong here? Man, there's a lot of guilty players right now because this team has not been too effective defensively, at least not through 5 games.
And my response to that assertion is, as he should, because if you learn anything from what happened last year when this team played better defensively, especially in the playoffs against Tampa, they won. You have the offense. You have these 4 forwards who are going to score 80, 90, 100 points. You have good secondary players. The difference between them winning and losing is them being able to keep the puck out of their own net.
Right.
You've got to be able to play a 2-way game. You cannot play balls, throttle wide open, balls to the wall offense. You cannot do that. How has that worked for Edmonton? It hasn't.
Right.
How has that worked for young teams like Buffalo and New Jersey? Buffalo hasn't made the playoffs in 12 years. New Jersey is just starting to get, but they have to improve defensively too. It's being able to play at both ends of the ice, and that is something that I think Sheldon Keefe has to pound into this team relentlessly.
So there's a system, right, to play the 200-foot game. And the system on paper or in the computer tells you if you have players who buy into fulfilling that system, you should be able to play a better game when it comes to thwarting opportunity against you. Do the Leafs have the personnel?
Well,
and we've been asking that question forever, but I can ask this question now. Do they have the personnel who can play that kind of game, Mike? Or are we just going to be frustrated with a group of guys who are really talented in a certain way, but not the way we want them to be?
Well, the question is, and it was funny because Keith came out after the Florida game and said that he was pleased with the effort. And, I don't know if he said it was the best game that they had performed, and they lost 3-1. The problem was, now, yes, you were happy with the way that they played defensively.
Yeah.
the 2 goals were, I think, weak on the part of Samsonov, but he was talking about the defensive responsibility. Now, the problem is that, okay, you played defensively responsible, but you did that at the cost of your offense, and you were chasing the game. You know, you have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. You have to be able to play two-way hockey, play defensively responsible, and be able to create offensively. Yeah. The good teams that win Stanley Cups, like Colorado, like Tampa Bay, they do that. And that's the whole thing. Can this team walk and chew gum at the same time? Let's see.
Yeah, right now, and it's okay. It's a collection of guys. As the games progress and we get deeper into the season, and these cats find their way. Some go through slumps and then, kind of resurface. We're hoping this will become a collection of players who buy into the same goal every night, and that's to play responsible defensively and you really take advantage of the chances that they get when they're at the other end of the ice. And that's the thing, Mike. Down 3-1 late, this team can score. And last night, the offense came from guys that we didn't expect to score because they're gripping it a little bit too tight. And that's a really nice thing. And, Marner's off to a kind of a shit start, right? But it's okay because Nylander's all world right now. And, poor Matthews hasn't scored in a few games, but he's still on pace for 85 goals this season. When some of your top guys aren't going, but you have a second-tier group and, tertiary players who can really provide offensively too, you want those guys to step up when others are being tracked or marked or, just don't have it that night. So offensively, let's not worry about what this team is capable of. It's everything else. And, 3-2 could be worse. They could be 0-5. Sure, they could be 5-0. But if they were 5-0, then what? We'd be expecting for the other shoe to drop or something to fail. And as I said to you at the start of the season, it's more of the same of last year. And I don't know if this team will ever fully just impress the hell out of us to the point where we're in disbelief that they've become this entity that we think can go all the way. It's part of the struggle. And to have a little bit of struggle, to have a bit of, pessimism kind of tucked in there, in addition to, the general sense that the dread is coming because it always seems to arrive for this organization. It keeps you honest. I want to go through a couple of comments here because I'm seeing a really, I wouldn't say a lively chat, but there's, quite a few people who have things to say, Mike, and we're going to keep it short today, guys. Matthew Tanti. Good to see Domi get a couple of points last night. How'd you feel about his overall game?
He was struggling the first few games. I think, being a new player, look, he's moved from left wing to right wing. He's moved from the second line to the third line. He played center for a little bit in the game against, I think it was against Chicago or against Florida. So he's been moving all over the place. They've been searching for some kind of combo that worked. And last night in the third period, they seemed to find it with him playing on the right side with Nyes and David Kampf. That was the line that got the tying goals, and it seemed to work. Now, defensively is always going to be an issue with Max Domi. He's an primarily an offensive player. But, if he just plays competent defensively, then the offense is going to be a plus for him. He's not going to get power play time because the core four and Klingberg or Riley are going to get most of the power play time. He's probably not even going to be on the second power play. So he's going to have to score 5-on-5. But I think it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment. But last night he was a difference maker.
Right. William Nylander leads the way with 9 points. Again, where he is in his career and what he's capable of, I'm seeing a different cat right now. And by golly, keep it up, Willie. John Tavares, just quietly, a really nice start to his season. Let's pat this cat on the back because he's headed for third base in terms of where his career is at. But he's looked great.
Well,
and so is Willie, right?
Well, okay. Tavares first. He scored 80 points last year. I don't know what the criticism was.
I'm not saying he wasn't good last year, Mike.
I know you're not, but the critique out there is he's not an $11 million player. Okay, maybe he never was, but that was the price you had to pay in free agency to get him.
Right, of course.
You could debate whether it was wise to do that. Well, like I said, I mean, if you're talking about,
And who paid him, Mike, the Messiah?
well, Kyle Dubas paid him, but the whole point was with that was you paid Nylander, and then you signed Tavares to the 11.
The money's the money.
And
Forget the money. I just want to comment on where.
That's the argument of that side, and I'm saying at this point I don't care. I care what the guy is doing, and he's 32 now, 33 years old, and he scored 80 points last year, and he's still an incredibly creative offensive player, and he's still producing at a high level. There's nothing wrong with John Tavares, not anything at all. So yeah, I mean, now Nylander, I mean, okay, he's leading the team in scoring right now. I keep going back to this is going to make it much more difficult to get him signed. And, like they're, more than likely they're not trading him. It's either he's going to walk in free agency at the end of the year, or they're going to sign him to a contract. And the more points that he scores and the better that he plays, the more expensive it's going to be. And that's going to make it more difficult for this team going forward to make the improvements that they need to be a championship team. I don't know how they sign William Nylander for $9.5 to $10 million and then go out and get the 2 or 3 defensemen that they need to win a championship. So, I'm all for signing him, but I'm all for signing him to a amount of money that makes sense.
I guess it's a tomorrow problem, Mike. And, sure, he'd like to get paid, but the Maple Leafs are all he knows. And it's not like the Swedish culture is super, super cutthroat and greedy, right? At the end of the day, money's money. But, some OGs and converts have made these comments to me, whether publicly or even privately. They believe that he will amend his demands to keep the financial framework together, and him among the core 4. So let's just not get on a Willie tangent. He's been really, really great. Now, Patrick G Mafia. Pat, are you new to the convo? If you are, welcome. If not, my apologies. You're ingrained in the system now. Bird is the next to find his chemistry. He's out there booting around, and when he looks like he's just a little bit of a step behind. I wouldn't say he's the fastest guy, and again, doesn't play the type of game that your Matthews and your Nylanders and your Marners do. But I go back to his performance in the playoffs with the Bruins. I know the Bruins didn't make it anywhere, but he was fantastic. So. Again, what we're seeing from these cats right now may not bring a sense of completion, or that it was the right thing to do to welcome them to this team. But time will tell. And if we can get some really gritty performances from a guy like that when the chips are down, that's what I'm in it for.
I think they're going to give him a long leash when it comes to playing with Matthews and Marner, because they see the potential on that line. Now, remember, last night, trailing 3-1, they mixed the lines around and they put Nylander with Matthews and Marner, the familiarity there, and then they moved things around a bit. Who's to say that maybe down the road, Bertuzzi's a better fit with Tavares, and either Domi or Matthew Nyes is a better fit with Matthews and Marner. That's the whole point. It's a sort of a feeling out process. You've got a lot of new players sort of adjusting. I do think, and
do you like the fact that this team can mix and match? There's that much talent. One guy shouldn't be pigeonholed or relegated because that's the only place he can play. You've got to think that you can just jumble these lines together and get some productivity.
I don't mind mixing and matching, but sometimes it seems like they're flailing about. And like when they're not getting performances that they want, when Keefe is not getting performances out of the players that he wants, then he starts throwing the lines in the mix master. I mean, most NHL coaches do that. Don Granato in Buffalo, after the 4 games where the team did not play well, he mixed up his lines yesterday. They all do it. But if you notice, it's more than, they never break up Marner and Matthews. They almost never break up Tavares and Nylander. They keep those pairs together, and then they'll move the third guy around. Now, I'll tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and it's not like these players must be aligned to be successful, it's their seasoning, right? And the cohesion there is reliable, but we don't know, Mike. Sheldon Keefe may mix it up and throw them in the mix master again just for shits and giggles. There was a comment here I wanted to get. Mr. Captain 93. I still think Keefe is the wrong guy behind the bench. Jesus, Murphy, we don't need a search for another head coach, at least not now. Wilfred Witzke, convert for sure. Bertuzzi, Domi, nice. I mean, it sounds fun. It sounds fun, but would they be the most responsible defensively? Like, how would that turn out?
I don't think William Nylander is a center. I don't think Max Domi is a center. Max Domi had his most success last year after getting traded from Chicago, where he played center for most of the year, playing on the wing with Dallas. I think he's a winger. Right. I think he's a good creative winger. He has the playmaking ability of a center. The problem is he doesn't have the defensive ability of a center. So I think their best lineup right now is Matthews, Tavares, Kampf, and either Fraser Minton or Holmberg as your fourth line center. Kampf can play more than fourth line minutes. He's a really good defensive center, good face-off guy. I'm not sure if the Fraser Minton experiment is over with. I mean, they healthy scratched him yesterday. Maybe they were just giving the young guy a break, like a little bit of a breather. But I mean, if he sits a couple more games, then he's probably heading back to junior.
You wonder about guys like Domi, and we've been in the league a while now, and he's not the only one. I'm not picking on him, but the scouting report is the scouting report, or his pros and cons are their pros and cons, and it's almost like, well, that's take it or leave it. Instead of hanging out at your $10 million cottage in Muskoka, which I don't blame you for doing, I don't know, go work on your defensive game. Like it's crazy, but it's just like, there's going to come a time where you're a 15-point guy. Maybe you can hang around the league a little bit because you can do some things that you've developed. And it's like a pitcher who used to throw really, really hard and now is, painting the black, just to evolving based on the skill set to stay in the league and stay relevant. I just, when we hear, but he's a good player, but he's not very good defensively after this long. You haven't developed, you haven't gotten better.
Yeah, improved? But that's where baseball and hockey are different. I mean, we know that, like, a guy like Frank Tanana, who had arm problems and then was a guy who painted the corners, as you say, or Jamie Moyer, who extended his career into his 40s. He was a guy who picked the corners. They adapted. They were fireballers earlier in their career, and they adapted to being sort of innings eaters or whatever. Once you're in your mid 20s in the NHL, the player that you are is the player that you are. I really think so. I don't think you can depend. You can expect.
That's awesome.
I don't think you can expect Max Domi to be a Selke Trophy nominee. He is what he is. So you accept him for what he is, which is, I think, a good offensive player, a good complementary guy, but somebody who's not going to be defensively profound. You either accept him for that or you don't re-sign him. So.
Hawkeye, I don't know why they don't try Domi and Marner together. They played well together in London. Yeah, 10 years ago.
Yeah, perhaps. When Mitch Marner was 16 years old. I'll just say this. Domi, Matthews, and Marner at some point could happen.
Right. Camp allows Domi and Nice to do their thing. Patrick G. Mafia, second time to the show. Hopefully we have you back. Now, Mike V, 20 minutes in, we need to talk about Ryan Reeves. So I got a Facebook Messenger, pretty terse and animated, from Mr. Augello last night about Reeves. Tee me up, Mike. Tee me up, Norm, and I'm just going to go off on this guy. Are you, like, and again, it's how appropriate. Are you punching down here, Mike? Are we pissed off at a guy who really we know is compartmentalized in his abilities, and we just kind of keep him in the closet until it's time for him to let loose?
Well, I'll just say this. This was the game that the fourth line didn't get scored against because Ryan Reeves only played 5 minutes. So it was tough to score against him when he only plays 5 minutes. He's been a liability on the ice for most of these games. I mean,
explain to me what you mean by that. Like what
defensively, he's out of position. He's slow. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, you know that I'm a player, that I'm an observer of the game who appreciates players who fight, but they also have to play. And the whole point here has been you need toughness out of guys who can play. A
Right.
Bertuzzi can score, but he's also tough.
Right.
And you don't want him dropping the gloves and fighting. Ryan Reeves' main job is to be a deterrent. And how do you be a deterrent if you're not on the ice? And how do you be a deterrent if you're not a liability when you're on the ice? He's
Mike,
a liability.
Mike, you predicted this would be a situation, maybe not 5 games in. So, but he has maneuverability, right, with his contract. You can move him down and bring him up. And do you have him hang out at what do they call where the Marlies play, Coca-Cola Coliseum or something?
Yeah.
What is it called now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just have him hang out there until Keefe thinks there's going to be a game where he's required to throw him.
Well, I mean, the one thing I said when he was signed to that contract was the contract was variable because when you send somebody down to the American Hockey League, I believe it's $1.125 million gets buried when he gets sent down. So that would leave about $200,000 in terms of a cap hit if they put him on waivers. And I don't think you're risking anybody claiming him on waivers if you send him down. Now, he did not come to Toronto to spin tunes in the locker room. He came to play. But the problem is that he might not be able to. I mean, on off the post and on the Buzzcast, Russ Cohen and I, and Russ covers the Rangers, and he was on the Rangers for years, and they brought him in there because Tom Wilson was beating people up, and for half a season, fine, he was a deterrent, and then you came down to the point that he couldn't play anymore, and then they ended up trading him to Minnesota, and Minnesota wanted him, but they wanted him in a limited role because he really is not an effective player 5-on-5. It's like when the gloves are being dropped, there's nobody else you want. There's nobody else that you want in this league other than Ryan Reeves. The problem is nobody drops the gloves anymore.
I just don't understand how a guy like that can't do what it takes to play 7, 8, 9 minutes of effective hockey. No one's asking him to score. What the fuck? I'm sorry. I just don't understand how a guy like that with this opportunity, that how many knuckle draggers, how many career fighters would love to have this opportunity and would button up defensively and just not be a liability for the limited time they're on the ice. How many guys would take this opportunity? Thousands of hockey players would. And Ryan Reeves comes out here, and again, nobody seems to be happy with what he's doing. And nobody was really expecting anything other than just being responsible out there. So I mean, the Ryan Reeves discussion will continue on. I'm seeing some comments in the chat that, look, regardless, he's there. The question is having him in the lineup and almost kind of being I don't know, how would you say it? It's almost like not having you're missing a player. You're playing shorthanded. Yeah. Having him there though, is that a detriment? Is that a detriment, or can you just live with it based on the talent that this team has?
Because what you're doing then is you have a fourth line unit. You're basically playing 3 lines because you can't put out Noah Gregor and last night Pontus Holmberg. You can't put them out because Reeves is on the ice as well, and Reeves is too slow and not positionally sound enough to make them not a liability. The opposition scored a goal against the Leafs fourth line 4 games in a row. So I mean, that's not acceptable. Now, okay,
right. They're not out there to give up goals, and they're barely out there. How do you give up goals?
Right. But the argument is, does Reeves have a deterrent effect against players taking advantage of players like Matthews, Marner, and Nylander? There's not enough of a body of work here to say whether they do or not. I mean, I don't buy well, William Nylander was able to cut to the middle because Ryan Reeves and Max. I don't buy that. But I do say, I think, you need toughness in this league to win.
Right.
But you need toughness that plays 15, 16,
Well,
17 minutes a night, not 5.
Well, yeah, you need him out there to be effective and to show his prowess. To He's there playing the game, in a responsible enough way to get through a shift or a multitude of shifts, and not just be a guy hanging onto a stick, but somebody who is asserting some physicality and some dominance without detracting from the main goal, and that's to move the puck the other direction, score some goals, keep it out of your end as much as possible. Biff and Hap, I don't even know if we need to get into this. We need to talk about Marner passing the puck to the other team almost every time he handles it. All right. Again, he's off to a rough start, and sometimes he looks a little bit careless, but that's the byproduct of a guy who, at times is playing a little bit ahead of everybody else. But this idea that he's giving the puck away, I mean, what are you going to do? Cut him?
Yeah, he's got 4 points in 5 games. He was nominated for the Selke last year, so I don't think he's a bad defensive player. Is he off to a rough start compared to other years? Yeah. But he scored his first goal against Florida on Thursday. I expect him to be the player that we've seen over the last few years. I don't think on the list of problems that the Leafs have right now, Mitch Marner and his defensive abilities are way down on that list.
So, Mitch Marner's played 512 games in the NHL. Okay, forget about the playoffs. Well, we can't forget about the playoffs, but I'm just talking about regular season. Okay, he's got 558 points. That's over a point per game.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are we suggesting here? Just release him? This is madness. Who wouldn't want a guy who has more than a point per game in his career and has played over half, 500 plus games? There's a dislike for the guy. And when I saw him do the gritty at his wedding, yeah, I kind of liked him a little bit less too. But Jesus, as you said, he was nominated for the Selke. He's off to a rough start.
Yeah,
he's off to a rough start.
And just
558 points in 512 games. Yeah. Who scores a point per game anymore?
I know that plus minus is not the most accurate indicator when it comes to defensive ability or whatever, but he's a plus 88. And William Nylander, in about the same amount of games, is not even averaging a point per game, and he's a plus 21. So
yeah. And again, this isn't.
No, you're putting him side by side. You have to put him side by
side. Right. Okay, so a busy week for the Leafs coming up. Very busy. Washington's coming up. Who else do we have, Mike? I know there were 4 games in the next 8 days or something like that. Yeah. So we got Washington, Dallas, Nashville, and
Los Angeles.
Yeah. Right. A bunch of the Western teams coming up as well. And, I think when we look back in the next week, 2 weeks, we're going to look back on more of the same. We're going to look back on nights where they are pretty dominant offensively and leave a little to be desired on the defensive end of things. And, there might be a great stellar goaltending performance in there too. Ryan Reeves won't do what we want him to do. Max Domi's not going to be great defensively, but maybe he gets going a little bit on the offensive end of things. I really don't know what to predict here other than just more of the same. And I guess at the end of the day, when all things are considered and when you weigh out how much time there is left to evolve, I guess that's okay. Last word to you.
The graphic on Hockey Night in Canada last night was sort of an indicative. This team the last couple years has played badly in October and then been the best team in the league in November. They've struggled in October. They've not played well against teams that they should beat. Last night they put in an effort where they played, I think, 10 good minutes in the third period and in the overtime, and they won. They need more consistent effort, and now they're going to play Joseph Woll against Washington in their next game. So if he gives them good enough goaltending and they get some offense, then they'll win. And if it's inconsistent, then their struggles will continue. But we'll see.
OG's Converse, like the content, subscribe to the channel. Watch out for our Leafs Convo shorts. Mike and I didn't do a show this past week, but with all the activity coming over the next 7 to 8 days, I think we're going to add another convo or two. When you are linked to the channel through a sub, or hit the bell icon, or you're following Mike, following me, you'll know what's coming up, because not everything is preordained. And is it going to be Sunday morning? Most likely, but it could be pushed back. It could be it could do something at the crack of dawn, and you never know. We might do 1 or 2 shows during the week. It really just depends on how things break, and if we feel it's necessary to provide you with more content in that time. In general, absolutely, but it's a long haul ahead, and we just want to make sure that we're doing things when the time is right. Mike, what are you writing at hockeybuzz.com right now?
Well, tomorrow I'll be writing about the game against Tampa and the shift to Joseph Woll. Now, I don't think it's going to be, he's the number 1 now, but I do think they're going to give him
Does
more.
he start against Washington?
Sheldon Keefe said he will start against Washington.
He did. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah,
did Keith text you that after the game, or?
No. He said it to the media in Tampa. I don't have that kind of relationship with Sheldon.
No, that's good. Again, I like both of these cats, but I'm really keen to see what Joseph Woll can do. I love his story. I love where he's at in his career, and I'm really confident that guy's got a lot more to give, which is saying a lot, because he's really super talented. Okay, Mike, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thanks so much for the time. OakRidgeFord.com, guys. Big finish to the month in terms of car sales. If you're looking for anything, please reach out to me at Norm at Oak Ridge Ford. And the more you support what we're doing through the automobile sales end of things, the more you are supporting the Leafs Convo. We don't ask for a dime from you guys, but sponsorship is a big deal, and we're very appreciative to Mark Stevens and the crew at Oak Ridge Ford for helping us out, even in the slightest way, monetarily. Okay, for Mike, I'm Norm. Talk to you soon. Bye.